largely a communication concerns that expressed generally speaking by the first that Section 16, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa does not extend this right to incitement of imminent violence. We appeal to the leadership of students, parents, and all stakeholders to work together with government to dissuade students from committing acts of criminality that may result in criminal records which may jeopardize their future prospects. Fellow South Africans, the JCPS cluster genuinely believes that the challenges that confront our society in the wake of the hashtag Fees Must Fall protests do not in any way diminish our collective responsibility towards the safety and security of one another. We urge members of the police to always act with maximum restraint and ensure that their conduct is always beyond reproach. We equally appeal to the students to work with our law enforcement agencies in ensuring that these protests are peaceful. The National South African Police Service leadership is today engaging provincial commissioners to firm up plans to secure the protests, the public and private property, students and members of the public generally. We will continue to update our nation on work that government is doing to normalize the situation at institutions of higher learning, thereby allowing for the academic program to continue. End of statement. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. I will take a last round of questions. Are there any papers?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Please, we know the difference when we engage.
Thank you very much. Following on from the ESCA, in your statement, Minister, you say that destruction of property will not be tolerated. Exactly what steps will be taken against those and continue to
I want to see all their faces together.
really got the country talking, and that is that of roads and many saying that
Road control with a diesel outage update and a thank you note. One LHQ came back on to board yesterday. We completed the outage after a target of 19 days, but completed it in 16 days. We measured the outage success in terms of our KPIs for the outage were LTIs, we had no LTIs and one minor injury. There were no SAR violations, there were no LTS violations. Special thank you goes out to the scaffolders, the plating team, the welders, and MMD as the main work center. Really raised the bar, and Work Control would like to express their appreciation for the excellent work and the hours.
security targets.
This board was the commission board. When this unit was commissioned, everybody else was on site.
Where does the
And no one else to sign up.
what does the law
So
say?
you can see even picture of the reconstruction.
Okay, they must also take a...
Yeah, if we can do a best, we can just take the video of that one.
What are the current
Sure, I'm not gonna win it. I'm already maxing things out without bringing all the lights in here, which I think would be a very difficult story to
I'll
make.
see if I have it somewhere else that I can put it.
It's cool though, and we've got the. So yeah, you guys self-sustainable with your electricity, or you supply?
Thank you very much. The South African Police Service is executing its duty enforcing the law. To be always guided by firstly our constitutional limitations that are expressly contained in Section 16 as recognized, yes, the right for everyone who wants to protest but enforce within certain boundaries and limitations. And of course, the question of responsibility having to be taken up. Now, but also far and beyond just what the Constitution says, we have other pieces of legislation, for instance, that speaks directly to the issue of issues such as intimidation and other things. The one I can think of right away is the Righteous Governance Act, amongst other things, which also speak to the issue of how we need to conduct ourselves when it comes to issues of public protests, issues of intimidation, incitement, and so on and so forth. So we'll be firmly guided by such. The incident at Rhodes was quite an unfortunate incident. Of course, we need to still gather all the necessary facts in terms of what essentially transpired in that particular situation. And it is for that reason also that in the statement we are making two particular points. The first one is that the manner in which we are going to the police service to act within
You want a time lapse of it quickly?
at the second
Nice to speed it up. Otherwise, we
from the side of ordinary citizens of the country, any one of us, to actually obey the law at all material times, and we must be able to respect the law. So that's why we're making that particular point. The issue of private security, I would like to lump the very same question that Mr. Mugame raised with Ms. Lewis here on the question of the private security companies. That, of course, there will be engagement with university management or leadership, let me put it that way, because the issue also amongst ourselves, which concerns us as the South African Police Service, is the whole question of the management of the security situation within institutions. And there has got to be engagement at that particular level so that we're able to firstly, to have effective means and measures of coordination in managing security situations and concerns within campuses and so on. Now, you speak to plans. Of course, I think it would be appreciated that the only thing that we can say thus far is that we will enforce the law. Now, but if you are looking for operational details, that's what we're not going to give you, except to say that, of course, we'll have to do that. And of course, amongst other things, perhaps I can also throw this one in, is that where there is a need for us to beef up security in institutions, we'll certainly do so to try and contain the situation. Where we have got to employ and deploy some other measures, of course, to essentially amplify the work that the South African Police Service has got to undertake, we will certainly do so. I've heard of the allegation, which, of course, it being an allegation, it has got to be subjected to other processes, I suppose, at a later point. That private security companies are also alleged to be agitating. It's the point that you're making. So it's not the first time that I hear of that particular point. But if you are expecting me to say that is true or not true, certainly I'm not going to be able to satisfy that and be able to say that. But safe to say that it's indeed a matter that requires following up as well through different sort of means and channels to establish some validity around this particular claim or none thereof, sort of. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. On the second round, recognize the lady at the back. Yes, yes, come again. Yes, Judith, continue.
Minister, just on the issue of going back to the issue of roads, would you say that police are actually properly trained to be able to handle protests? Because this is going to become like an echo when we always see these clashes happening whenever there's a protest. Would you say police are properly trained for this?
Any take before I close? Okay, gentlemen here, please state your name and your institution.
I see that you also, with the student leaders here, have you resolved that to stop the current protest going on in institutions? This university recently held a poll. 70-something% of the students voted to go back to class. Some are saying they will continue with the protest. What's the overall discussion with the various student leaders here? Are you asking them to halt the protest, or are they adamant that they're carrying on with the protest since they're here? And lastly, Minister Nzimande, what is happening with the call for free quality higher education? Are you addressing the issue? And when is the time frame that the students are demanding that free quality higher education? Are you going to implement it? Because in my understanding, the students are not calling for a no-fee increment. They are calling for the implementation of free quality higher education. We understand that the fees commission is going on, but when are you addressing the time frame?
3, 2, 1.
And the last question to the students leaders here.
Goeienaand en welkom by jou naweek weer voorspelling. Kom ons begin by die satellietbeeld en vanoggend 'n dik laag lae en middelvlak wolke het oor die suide en ooste beweeg, maar die son het vandag deur die wolke gebreek in die Oos-Kaap, maar as gevolg van aan lande gevloei, het dit meestal bewolk en koel gebly in KwaZulu-Natal met ligte reën teen tye. 4 uur vanmiddag het 'n paar donderstorms ontwikkel oor Mpumalanga en op die Hoëveld en vanaand verwag ons enkele donderbuie in die noordooste. Môreoggend beweeg daar 'n koue front oor die suidkus. Daarom stoot baie wolke in en die moontlikheid van motreën vroegmôreoggend oor die suidweskus. Nog 'n bewolkte dag met ligte reën in KwaZulu-Natal, bewolkte weer en donderbuie in Mpumalanga en teen die middag se kant enkele donderstorms oor Gauteng, Limpopo asook Mpumalanga. 'n Koel dag in die Oos-Kaap en as gevolg van 'n kuslaag oornag ligte reën oor die kus. Môreoggend net 'n 20% kans van motreën oor die suidweskus, 60% kans van reën langs die kus van KwaZulu-Natal, net 'n 20 tot 40% kans van donderbuie in Gauteng, maar 'n 60% kans in Limpopo en Mpumalanga.
Let me just say
'n bewolkte
that
dag weer eens môre in KwaZulu-Natal, ligte reën met temperature
that I think with
onder
regards
20
to
binneland.
two other questions and
Reën môre
probably
in die
more,
oostelike
I'll
dele van
ask,
die Oos-Kaap en oornag
both the
motreën
ministers
langs
London
die
and
kus.
the Minister Mahlobo to
Meestal bewolk in
to
Port
come in.
Elizabeth bereik net 20
But there's
grade
only one
oornag
question I need to
motreën,
deal with,
ook 'n
the
meestal
question of
bewolkte
police
dag
training.
oor die suidkus met ligte motreën.
Firstly, just
Vroegoggend
maybe two
motreën
things
oor die
about that.
suidweskus, dit bly
If that
koel in die
question
Weskaap
is
met
premised
20 in
on
Kaapstad.
what happened at Rhodes,
Sonnig en warm môre in die Noord-Kaap,
it is
koel in
also
Sutherland
likely
met
that
18
could
grade,
be a wrong
maar
premise.
Appington bereik 28.
because
26 môre
we
in
still have got to
Bloemfontein en Welkom,
interrogate all the
gedeeltelik
facts in
bewolk in
terms
die
of
ooste
what
van
actually
Vrystaat.
transpired there besides
Weer eens 'n
what we see
20% kans van middag
on,
donderbuie in die
on
noorde
on
van
videos
Noordwes,
and
Mahikeng
what has
bereik
been
30
flighted
grade.
right across.
Limpopo
So that's one part.
verspreide
The second
donderbuie
part
môre in die
is
ooste
that
en plek
the
donderstorms
protesters
in
we
die
have them
Bosveld.
now
'n bewolkte
in
dag met ligte
2016,
reën en donderstorms môre oor
it's not just
Mpumalanga,
simply,
Ermelo bereik net
the first
23.
time we're experiencing
'n maksimum van
protests of this
26
nature.
môre in
There have been
Johannesburg
protests in the
en
past,
onthou soos
and
vandag weer eens net
the
'n
South African
20
Police
tot
Service manages
40% kans
on
van
average
donderstorms.
basis about 1,000 of
Namibië
public
droog,
protests a
Keetmans
month.
op 30 grade,
in this
25
country.
in Walvisbaai
Now,
en weer eens maksimum van
So the
32
question
in Windhoek.
would be,
Die wind is môre suid in
that-
Kaapstad, suidwes allangs die kus
or
van die
maybe not
Oos-Kaap
even the
sterk
question,
in
but
Port
perhaps the
Elizabeth
observation
50
is simply
km/h.
that
Sondag nog 'n
in the
bewolkte dag in
majority of
KwaZulu-Natal,
all these
asook reën in
protests,
Limpopo
be it
en
whether
Mpumalanga.
it's
'n
student
Lieflike dag in
protests or
Kaapstad
public
bereik
protests and so forth.
27 grade. Dis nog warmer
Post
maandag met
Marikana,
30 grade.
I think
Die
you
koel
will
weer beweeg
probably
ooswaarts
agree
met net
with me
22
that
in
the police
Johannesburg
have
en
acted with
oggendreën in
restraint in the
KwaZulu-Natal.
majority of these
Dis al van
particular
my af.
protests.
Geniet die naweek wat voorlê.
We haven't experienced any fatalities. We haven't experienced any serious injuries, for an example, and so on. So, and I think it's
Okay.
a point to be reckoned with, and and somewhat recognized. So that's an effort. Now the question of police training. Those of you who were involved with training of any sort, be it in the whether is it police training or any form of training, you would appreciate that training in itself tends to be an evolving kind of program, if I can loosely put it across in that sort of manner. So in a sense, we continue as the South African Police Service, for instance, to look at, refining our methods of training. Related to that will also be the question of periods of training, and so it goes. And those of you who have been following some of the developments and the trends in the South African Police Service, you will remember that we even now have got a project in place which is established on the basis of the Marikana Commission of Inquiry recommendations to also begin to look at reviewing some of our issues, be it the question of methods of training, the question of standing orders and so on, that govern the work of public order policing and so on. So I would venture to say, Sisi, that the question of public order policing and relevant police training is work in progress. Thank you very much. I would then invite my colleagues to also come in and...
Swap a bit.
Yeah, okay.
Can you swap?
Yeah.
No, thank closer to the microphone.
Okay. You can also sit on the table.
No, thanks, Comrade Deputy Chair, Minister Ntlego, and other ministers, and the leadership of the SRCs here. Well, in terms of the outcome of our discussion, remember, as you see, the statement is read by our Deputy Chair of the cluster. It was a very fruitful engagement, very candid and frank. We have raised issues. There are no issues that we're able to put under the carpet. They were all on the table. We level criticism to them, they level a criticism to us, and we have all agreed. We've all agreed that the situation there can continue in the manner it's happening in our institution of higher learning. And the leadership of the South African Union of Student Representative Council will respond that they've denounced violence, the destruction of property in our institutions, the intimidation, including the loss of life. Because through this protest, there have been loss of life and other criminal activities that have happened, of which as government we convey our condolences to the family and the institution, because it's unacceptable. Therefore, we've agreed that we need to do whatever it takes, that all of us work together to stabilize the situation. But more importantly, we're also saying that the right for people to express their opinions must still be respected. But we have also agreed, Minister Nzimande will speak to that the other issue that they are raising, which is the issue around the campaign and the position of government. The doors of government to engage are not closed. And as this leadership will never tire to engage, we'll always engage. There is no issue that is so big that we can't sit around and not discuss it. But the manner we do things is a question that our tactics immediately started to undermine other rights and freedoms. We should be able to deal with
Goeienaand en welkom by jou naweek weer
We
voorspelling.
also appreciate
Kom ons
that
begin by die
Minister Zimande
satellietbeeld en
has asked the
vanoggend 'n
leadership of
dik
students to
laag
come in
lae
because
en
as law
middelvlakwolke
enforcement
het oor die
agencies
suide en ooste beweeg.
to secure
Maar die son
our
het vandag
country
deur die
is
wolke gebreek in
everybody's
die Oos-Kaap, maar as gevolg van haar lande gevloei,
This
het dit
question
meestal
of us
bewolk
and
en
them
koel gebly in
can't be
KwaZulu-Natal met ligte reën
Therefore,
teen
to
tye.
improve this
4 uur
relationship
vanmiddag
was
het
very
'n paar
important to
donderstorms
agree to
ontwikkel
say how
oor
do we
Mpumalanga
actually
en op die
engage
Hoëveld en
to
vanaand
ensure
verwag
that some
ons
of these
enkele
things that are
donderbuie in die
happening, they can't
noordooste.
repeat itself.
Môreoggend
But more
beweeg daar 'n
importantly,
koue front
including
oor
those
die
incidents that have
suidkus.
happened, how do
Daarom
we
stoot
bring the
baie
others
wolke
into
in,
it?
die
Because
moontlikheid van motreën vroegmôre
There has
oggend
been
in
an
die
attempt to
Suidweskus.
legitimize
Nog 'n bewolkte
the
dag
work
met
of law
ligte reën in
enforcement
KwaZulu-Natal, bewolkte weer en donderbuie
Minister
in
Ntlego is
Mpumalanga en teen die middagse
You know,
kant
sometimes
enkele
we must be
donderstorms
able to
oor Gauteng,
give
Limpopo, asook
credit where it
Mpumalanga.
is due.
'n Koeldag in die Oos-Kaap en
equally
as
we must
gevolg
give
van 'n
criticism.
kuslaag
That is
oornag
constructive.
ligte reën oor die kus.
There are incidents where you can say
Môreoggend net 'n
probably
20% kans
there is
van
an
motreën
excessive
oor die
force here.
Suidweskus, 60% kans
But
van
no
reën
one is
langs die kus
actually
van
giving us
KwaZulu-Natal,
credit that
net 'n
after
20
so
tot
many
40%
incidents in
kans
this
van
country,
donderbuie in Gauteng,
not
maar
a
'n
single
60%
live
kans in
ammunition has
Limpopo
actually
en
been
Mpumalanga.
shot.
'n Bewolkte dag weer eens môre in KwaZulu-Natal,
And we've
ligte
been
reën,
able to calm a number of
temperature onder
things.
20 in die binneland.
When you look at other
Reën môre
democracies,
in die
you go to
oostelike
their
dele van
airports,
die
you go there,
Oos-Kaap
the
en
things we get
oornag
to be
motreën
exposed to.
langs die kus.
But the relationship
Meestal bewolk
between
in
us
Port
should be
Elizabeth bereik
actually
net
more
20
mutual.
grade oornag
It's the
motreën.
same question
Ook
that
'n meestal
we are
bewolkte
asking.
dag oor die suidkus met
Always
ligte
saying what is the
motreën.
role of intelligence?
Vroegoggend motreën
You
oor
know,
die
before these
Suidweskus
matters, they
bly
become
koel in
security
die
matters.
Weskaap met net
They
20
become
in
issues
Kaapstad.
that our ability to
Sonnig en warm
engage.
môre in die
That's why
Noord-Kaap,
even
koel
the
in
role of
Sutherland met
Vice
18
Chancellor's
grade,
communities
maar
to deal with
Appleton
issues on
bereik
time.
28.
We've always been on
26
record.
môre in Bloemfontein en welkom
We do have
gedeeltelik
intelligence.
bewolk in die ooste van die
When
Vrystaat.
you have intelligence in this
Weer eens
country,
'n
what do you do
20%
with
kans
the
van middag
information?
donderbuie in die noorde van
You
Noordwes,
give it to the
Maiken
leadership
bereik
of
30
those
grade.
institutions so they can be
Limpopo
able to be in a
verspreide
position to
donderbuie
speak and
môre in
discuss
die
issues.
ooste
We do
en
interact all the time.
plek donderstorms in die Bosveld.
If we have
'n
intelligence
bewolkte
about
dag met
someone
ligte
who's
reën
planning
en
something,
donderstorms môre oor
and the
Mpumalanga,
person has not
Ermelo
committed a
bereik
crime in
net
terms of our
23.
laws,
'n maksimum
Should we be
van
harassing
26 môre in Johannesburg en onthou
Or
soos
should we be
vandag
doing
weer eens net 'n
interceptions of
20
phones
tot 40% kans van
when
donderstorms.
citizens have not actually committed
Namibië
any crime.
droog, Keetman so op
We know
30
some of
grade,
the activities
25
that are
in
happening
Walvisbaai
there.
en weer eens 'n maksimum van
And we
32
know
in Windhoek.
the persons that are
Die
actually
wind is môre
agitating. One
suid
of
in
the things
Kaapstad,
that,
suidwes
Minister
aanlangs die
was
kus van die
reading,
Oos-Kaap sterk en Port
was saying
Elizabeth
the issues of
50
students are very
km/h.
genuine, and this government is
Sondag nog 'n
responding,
bewolkte
trying to
dag
listen.
in KwaZulu-Natal,
But we're also
asook reën
sharing
in
notes with
Limpopo
them to
en
say there are
Mpumalanga.
certain
'n
elements
Lieflike dag
who are
in
exploiting
Kaapstad
these
bereik
things,
27 grade. Dis nog
who
warmer
are no
maandag
longer
met
actually
30 grade.
interested to
Die koel
support
weer
the genuine
beweeg
concern of
ooswaarts
students for
met net
other
22
motives.
in Johannesburg
And
en
then we've
oggendreën
agreed
in
to say what are the
KwaZulu-Natal.
processes are we
Dis
going
al
to
van
do
my
so
af,
that we
in
can
hierdie
be able
naweek
to
wat
alert
voorlê.
each other, so that these genuine struggles, they cannot be in a position to be hijacked. But don't expect us that
Okay.
if we gather intelligence, we must behave outside the boundaries of the law. We are a constitutional democracy, and we must respect it all the time. When you have intelligence, I can't call a press conference and name people. They have rights to, is to be able to coordinate so that we can be able to respond. Why would we actually be having a number of arrests we have? If state security, crime intelligence, and defense intelligence, we don't actually share information. We do. And a number of incidents where they've happened in the country, working with our own communities, because communities have been very assisting. Because security of our country is all of us responsibility. They share information, we should be able to do that. We're even discussing with the student leadership now to say some of the characters that we know, how do we assist each other, including those people that have banned those properties. You know, the banning of these institutions, the implications that we normally don't discuss and share with the nation. We are going to be having close to 900,000 students that will be writing their matric. If this academic program can proceed, what will happen to these numbers in terms of access and the trouble that Minister Nzimande will have? We don't discuss the implication that the little infrastructure we have, we need it more. And these are some of the issues that when we had actually our own engagement, we are sharing the implications of our own actions and how in a responsible way, together we should be able to provide leadership. I must bring it back to Comrade Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Minister.
Okay.
Yes. Obviously, as government, we need to do all we can, working together with all the stakeholders to ensure that we restore the academic program in our universities. We are concerned, it's towards the end of the year, that we need to ensure that we complete the academic year properly. By so saying, we are not by any means suggesting that students have no right to protest, or a number of the things that they are raising, it means they are not correct. But we are urging them to go back to class for the following reasons. That we think that the many issues they are raising, they can be back in class and be continuing engagements with management or with government for that matter. We are on the same side with the students when they want free higher education for the poor and for those who cannot afford. And that's why we are also saying, with the President's Judicial Commission of Inquiry doing its work, let's give this commission to find a lasting solution to this matter. And for everyone who wishes to make proposals to go to the commission. Now, are we implementing free education? Yes. But we are not yet reaching everybody who deserves to be reached. For instance, NSFAS is going to be dispensing over 14 billion rands this year alone to assist many, many students in universities and colleges who are not going to be paying anything upfront. The National Skills Fund, for instance, is funding full bursaries at 1.3 billion rands. We normally do not talk about that money. All those who are in scarce skills, engineering, etc. All medical students, by the way, who come from not even very poor families. Many of them are paid for by government. That's part of government's contribution. They don't pay a cent. So we are implementing free higher education for the poor largely, but we have not reached everybody. And also we believe that with this interim relief of 2017, which also for the first time covers the missing middle, as the minister was indicating through the statement, we think this is an important relief which manages to tie us over until we are able to have a final report from the commission. So it's for all these reasons that we urge students to go back. Going back does not mean that the issues they are raising are not legitimate.
Thank you very much, Minister. We'll give it to the student leaders in the front there. Question from CD.
No, thank you, and greeting to the members of the media present here, the ministers with us. SAUS would want to confirm that we have met with the ministers and with the security cluster here. My name is Avelam Chachuban, SAUS president. Look, we must put it categorically clear that SAUS, ever since its establishment, has never abandoned the call for free quality higher education. And it is for this reason that SAUS for over 10 years has led student protest in demand of this call. Our struggle has never been about fees must fall, but about free quality higher education, which speaks also to the content of our education. We must also say that in this current juncture, we lead a generation that is very vacillating, a generation that is a generation of headlines. So hence today we have leaders that would want to go out of meetings, having agreed in a meeting and distance themselves from those discussions. However, we must also say that meeting with the security cluster here today does not deter us from raising the issues the students that we are raising. We would want to make a call that we as students want to continue with our academic program. We do not want to shut down institutions. But we are saying that also government must meet us halfway by meeting our demands, which this current government is doing. We also call that on vice chancellors, particularly the vice chancellor of VETS, Adam Habib, and that one of UCT. They must either decide whether they want to be vice chancellors or political analysts. They can't blow cold and speak hot. So they must themselves be able to decide whether they want to continue with the administrative work or not. They cannot continue running away from student leaders who want to engage about this genuine struggle that students raise. So we are calling on all vice chancellors to meet with student leaders and discuss all issues that are raised by students. We also in the belief that the meeting that we are going to have on Monday with the relevant stakeholders is going to deal with the steps particularly are going to be cleared or they're going to be presented to us on how free education can be implemented in South Africa. So we believe that the meeting on Monday with the stakeholders and the presidency, we also have the Minister of Finance, which also must present a framework on how the progressive tax is going to be, particularly on the private sector and the corporate. We would want also to put a blame on media that their narrow reporting is very worrying. The students, particularly from historically disadvantaged institutions, have been protesting over years. Now, it cannot be that the struggle of free education is a struggle of VETS and a struggle of UCT. It is a struggle that students across the country have been calling for and have been leading and are still leading today. So media must also report about the burning of cars and buses and assault on securities at UNIZUL. It cannot be that you report only about the historical advantage institutions. We also made a call to the Minister of State Security that there must be an investigation on these NGOs, because we sense that there might be a third force element in our struggle that want to delegitimize our call for free quality education. They might come wholly to us because we are in need of assistance. Actually, we are vulnerable because we want government to hear this call. So they might come wholly to us, whereas they're perpetuating a regime change agenda in the country. So we must put it categorically clear that we have said to the Minister of State Security that also we need its intelligence to be increased in our campuses, so as to detect all those arson and damage to property before they could happen. We'd also wanted to make it clear that as SAUS, we are leaders of SRCs. We were elected by SRCs. SRCs give us mandate, and we believe that that mandate is from students in general. It cannot be that some people who think that they are better, who perhaps they don't even know or understand the call that we are talking about. Our call is not about fees must fall. It's that of free quality education. So those who think that they are going to impose themselves on students, they are not going to last. And we are going to support our SRCs against those who want to remove SRCs and put on interim committees to deal with fees must fall. We want to say if people want to lead, they must gain that with credibility, they must go on polls, they must be voted for and lead students. It cannot be, hence perhaps we also sense that there is a third force element in this thing. It cannot be that people will be thirsty for leadership and come back from wherever they stay to lead students, while students have a capacity to lead themselves. So we are saying that SRCs must defend themselves against those who want to steal or hijack their struggle and must lead it properly. And I'm going to give it to the Secretary General to deal with the police brutality and unelected leaders who want to hijack the student struggle.
Just a second. Thanks, President. Just for time purposes, the chairperson of the cluster has another engagement. I would like us to wrap up before he leaves.
Thank you. Thank you. I think first thing first that we must acknowledge is that in as much as protests are happening in institutions of higher learning, vice chancellors must not behave like celebrities that are far away. In as much as a vet student must go back to class, but vet student must not be subjected to some polling of voting, as if Habib cannot go and speak with the SRCs and find long-lasting solutions. In fact, we're saying that polling situation of vets, we condemn it and we reject it with contempt that it deserves. Habib must stop being a populist, must come down and engage with the leadership of vets. Those who are saying they don't know SAUS and so on and so forth, we also don't know them because they're not SRC. So we don't need to be known by them for us to be credible leadership of students. The issue of police brutality and securities, we've made it clear here in front of the Minister of Police and State Security that we condemn the police brutality. If police want to go for a shooting range, they must find a field somewhere there and go and shoot, not us as students. We are not going to allow that thing to continue in our institutions of higher learning. Our institution of higher learning is not a military base or a parking lot for police vans and so on and so forth. Police stations are there. Police must go and arrest people who continue to rape our grandmothers in township and leave students alone. Thirdly, the issue of private securities bouncers. Universities cannot come here and say they don't have money while they are able to employ bouncers whom approximately they earn 500 per hour. And their sole responsibility is to come and assault students which are fighting for access to education, while even themselves as bouncers, they can't afford this education. Even themselves police, they can't afford to pay for this education, but they continue to shoot us. I will stop there for now, up until maybe there are some few questions that we'll need to clarify from student leadership.
Thank you very much. I'm worried about time. I'll take this last question then. Thank you, SG, for your understanding. I'm not taking any further questions. You will have one. You can have one-on-ones outside, but
why don't we prioritize those they want Minister Ntleko to answer? Because I'm worried about He's catching a flight.
We're done, Minister.
It's only the two.
Oh, so we're done.
okay.
Thank you very much.
You can go, but you can.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. So he agreed that the two.
SABC television once again. Minister Nzimande, what now? These students are saying that they're going to continue with their protest. Wits has put out this poll, which indicates that the institution is going to open on Monday. What happens now? Do these institutions remain closed? We understand you, we hear you calling for learners to go back and students to go back to the institutions themselves. But what must happen now?
Firstly, to the student leaders, is it fair to say that, because I noted quite strikingly that you're saying you're dealing with, at this stage, with the leadership within the student movement that is vacillating. So is it fair to say that coming out of this meeting, you are not exactly agreed as student leadership that are sitting here, and the ones perhaps that are standing at the back of us here are not agreed with what you are proposing? And also, Minister of Justice, Judge Dunstan Mlambo, this week, sitting on one of the cases relating to this protest, says perhaps there needs to be an example made of those that are torching property. So the question to you would be, is that something that you perhaps are now going to work hard to try and make sure that it happens, so that the destruction of property is stemmed? Are you agreed that it is going to have to come with making an example of the students that burned property? And just lastly, the issue of third force element. It's been mentioned before, and it was mentioned by you, Minister of Higher Education, that perhaps there is now another element to this if students are not going to agree with what you had announced. It seems that SAUS is agreed to that. Call me, I don't know what, but is this some kind of tactic? Because SAUS does seem to agree a lot with what government is saying. Is this some kind of a divide and rule tactic on the part of government and SAUS?
Thank you very much, Minister. Over to you.
Yeah.
Those were the two last hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Minister,
we continue to engage everyone as government, especially myself personally, and our Director General, engaging everyone. On Monday, we've called an important meeting of all the stakeholders, not only those who are within the system, the obvious ones, students, vice chancellors, workers, and so on. We've invited all representatives from all faith communities. We've invited representatives from traditional leaders. We've even invited the PSL and the taxi associations, because everybody has got an interest. Is this taxi association, for instance, who carries students every day? They listen to stories. What are the concerns? What are the issues? To try and say, how can we get out of this impasse? And continuing on our side, also to underline what is it that we are doing to try and get out of this continued engagement. We are happy with SAUS agreeing with us, because we're not enemies, our department and the student formations and the SRCs. We agree on a number of things. We may differ on some things, on tactics, when and how should happen, and so on. But we have no tactic of trying to divide students as government. We would like to engage with a unified voice of students at all times, hopefully, So there is no strategy by government to try and divide students. But you see the issue of the third force, I will take it to where it belongs. I'm only an ordinary minister who must ensure that our students get good quality education, and for those who cannot afford to be assisted by government.
Minister Masuta.
Oh, yeah.
Now, on the comment said to have been made by the Judge President of the Gauteng High Court, I just want to prefix it by saying I have not been privy to the statement, so I do not know the context, the full context, but nonetheless, I just want to start by saying that it is common cause that we all have to take responsibility for our actions. And our Constitution is very clear. We all have a duty to uphold the rule of law. So anyone who touches property, who indulges in conduct that is unlawful, and worst of all, criminal, must not be surprised when the wrath of the law takes its course upon them. So we really would want to be firm about this, that we are all equal before the law, and we must take responsibility for our actions. And the law will not hesitate to deal harshly. So in that context, I can only agree with him, because part of what the law seeks to achieve is to have a deterrent effect, to prevent harm from continuing to occur. And unless we make sure that those that cause harm are brought to book, we will not be sending a clear message out to society that crime does not pay. So I think that without wanting to not having had the privilege of listening fully to the facts and the circumstances, but I should think that the context in which he would have said that is that the law must have that deterrent effect, so that when others realize that there are consequences to the actions that wrongdoers indulge in, they would refrain from themselves indulging. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We'll have the student leadership responding.
We must be fair. E must follow as well.
Thanks. No, look, as I put it earlier, that we lead at a time where headlines makes you a leader. So we say that because after this meeting, there might be those that would want to distance themselves from this meeting because they like headlines. They like to address media other than addressing the concerns of students. They like perhaps to make stories for you all. So we will not be surprised if there are those that are going to do that. Because everything that has been presented by government, the last meeting that we had was at VETS on the 7th of September. We deliberated on the matter. Even student political organizations had a say on this matter. DAS in particular agreed on this question. But because some other organizations are more big in shape when it relates to taking of decisions, they might vacillate with the air. Because now students feel that this proposal does not cover them. While as a leader, you need to take decisions. And then take those decisions that you have taken and test them with your constituency. But don't go to your constituency and say that I've never agreed on this matter. Then the constituency must then give you a fresher mandate We are not afraid to say that as South we have agreed to the proposal because we believe that the proposal favors majority of the working class and the poor students. And today we have just confirmed that historical debts, we are going to undergo a process where they are going to be cleared, particularly for the missing middle. We are speaking about the registration here, that perhaps the registration for next year might be reduced because we are saying no student must be excluded based on finances. So we can take agreements, but those who like media can go against that, and we're not surprised, will not be surprised. SG will deal with the.
Thank you. I think I'm going to deal with the two issues. Is whether the student body is really united behind this or not. And I think President has partially covered. There will be those who will, of course, as President has explained, because of cameras, they will therefore speak anti to what we are saying. We're not saying that the protests in universities must not ensue. There are issues that are university-based. But the calling for free education, we must really make it clear that after this process, it is very opportunistic and very populist in nature and in form. Because there are processes at place that seeks to deliver us to free education. But if we're saying that we are not going to go back to class up until there is a pronouncement of free education, we must make it explicitly clear that it's being populist. And we're going to call it as it is because we don't seek to be loved by all. As leadership, we have a responsibility to rise above us being popular or what? But we must be able to take interest, we must be able to take decisions at the best interest of the poor and the working class background children because they are the ones who are going to suffer the most. The rich will continue to enjoy benefits of their rich families. But us from poor working class background in deep rural areas of Kwanongom, I will be suffering at the end of the day. And my parents will be expecting me to graduate, but I won't be able to graduate because of fighting for the rich. It's not possible to never fight for the rich, not now. Maybe in the near future. Second to that, we have made it clear. We have made it clear that our students who have been arrested, the National Department of Public Prosecution must speedify the process and our students must be relieved because I know myself and many people from TTU attended court up until this year from last year. But there's still no evidence. Our students, they are wasting their time going to court and we're saying the NDPP must be able to pronounce the sooner the better. Before we go to exams, we want to go to exams with all our students being freed from these charges of public violence where they are only arrested by police because police want to see their vans full. They just collect our students without any evidence. We are calling our students to be released. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to have the last minister must go and then we'll close.
No, thank you very much. On the last question, Comrade Mpepetwa decided to throw the curveball next to me. Well,
I've got enough of my curveballs.
Well, we had a discussion. It depends what narrative you want to use. Well, others, they call it third force and so forth and so forth. We had a candid discussion, as I said. One of the things that we should not actually live in a particular world we don't understand. South Africa as a state has its own challenges. And I've been on record. Remember when I gave my policy budget statement? Our country is under attack, like other countries because of the geopolitics of the world. And we've raised that for you to actually attack a country ultimately and change a government in an unconstitutional way, you are going to engage through issues that actually can mobilize communities around them. Education is one of the issues I raised earlier this year. That education, an important issue that this government has made an apex priority because it is a societal issue, it resonates with everybody. Students, this mission, I can call it, is their generational mission around free quality education. It's not actually starting with them. It started with generation before them, including ourselves, went through it. And no one has never said these matters must not be done. 1955, the ANC actually concluded through the Freedom Charter. Minister spoke about the Constitution. We spoke about the Pulwane Resolution of 2007, actually elaborated by the resolution of 2012 in Mangaung. There is no question about these issues. But when students are pushing these issues to say, government, we are moving much slower in as much as we have moved, but we think we need to put more, actually some energy to you to actually deliver on your promise. There are certain elements, and we have agreed with students. They are coming to them as Samaritanians. These people who are wage drivers, they come there as if they wanted to assist students. That's why the president, when he was saying that there are certain sectors of our society that we must keep an eye on them. It's not that we're not keeping an eye on them. I'm also actually the issue around the NGOs. I'm on record. NGOs, they played their part in our revolution and our freedom. They will continue to do so. But there are NGOs, I said, you can go and visit them now here in Midrand, in Johannesburg, Cape Town, everywhere in Durban. How securitized they are. Students, when we're discussing here, they say, but government, if you don't alert us that we're dealing with certain elements within our own communities, that whose objectives are beyond what we're actually fighting for. And we've agreed to say we will find a mechanism so that we can alert them. We don't want people, when people are busy on a program of regime change, that students become collaborators, either wittingly or unwittingly. It's happening all over the world. Countries are in trouble. We'll name them. It has happened. And this important issue, which is an important issue for our people, it can be used for other means. And therefore, we're very clear when we have a discussion there. You have seen, even in this particular protest, the student leaders, they've tried their level best to drive this thing in a manner that is more organized within the law. But there are certain examples where people that are not even students, called agent provocateurs. Why will you go and lead a student a march when you are not a student lead? They are elected students. Why will you create parallel structures? Well, the other thing which was, that's why I was saying we are very frank, we are also discovering commercial interest. Other people, you know, there was one university we're discussing with Mpepetwa here. We're not going to say its name. Where the university was actually bent into ashes, a particular block, for commercial reasons. You know, this thing of people burning property. South Africans, we cannot remain silent. The impact are so devastating. Untold suffering. This is one issue where probably when we actually inform our society and educate, we don't speak about untold suffering. Make an example. The problem we saw in Vuan, we're going to have to spend millions and millions of rands. Those young people, one day when they were speaking in one prayer, they cried. They said parents, because it was parents. Parents, don't burn our schools. We are burning our future. And parents must start to raise their voice. Those children have been taken backwards for ages. In other words, we are imposing a punishment to the future generation. I was making an example about these universities. The judge is correct. We must all be actually raising a voice that we must send a signal. You ban a public facility, we are banning our future. Why will you ban a clinic and deny people an opportunity to actually access medical facilities, which is a right to healthcare? You ban a library, you ban other facilities that are there. They are not in abundance and there is no money. Why would we actually say those people must not be taught a lesson? They must be taught a very harsh lesson. Imagine these students, some of them, they're studying with grandparents' pension. It's the last month. They have sold everything, certain parents, that this person must graduate this year. We are saying we must ban that university. They must not go back to class. Where will that grandparent get the money for next year? These are some of the conversation we don't make. The impact of our action. It looks so nice, big news when we report. But ultimately, what do we want to achieve? We must be able to say who we are, what do we stand for as a society, and how do we want to be characterized as South Africans. I thought I must be able to come to that point of Comrade Masuta because I will support it. And if we have evidence, we will actually push that they get the maximum sentence in terms of our own laws. Because if we don't do that, this kind of lawlessness is going to continue, and these individuals are very few. They can't continue to intimidate our people. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, ministers. Thank you to the student leaders. Thank you to General Masemola. Thank you very much to the media.
Yeah.
Cheers.